Well, hi everyone. I just flew in from Cleveland, and boy, are my arms tired. No, I was actually in Cleveland, Ohio for day 3 of the 2021 NFL Draft. I actually just got back in and kind of wanted to discuss the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. I came on last year and talked about it, and we had a nice lively discussion. Of course, that was at 7 o'clock and not 9 o'clock. But I just got back. Pretty cool. My first time actually being at the draft and kind of seeing what the draft experience was all about. So it was really cool to see the Steelers picks from actually inside Cleveland Browns Stadium, and also they're picking the 6th round, actually watching the stage as they announced it. A really cool experience, and I will be having a YouTube video up later to kind of document that experience. Oh, hello, child. My son's sleeping over a friend's house, but he decided to pop in and watch me on this. But let's discuss the Pittsburgh Steelers 2021 draft, because it is in the books. So round 1, Najee Harris. Round 1 running back, Najee Harris, and we'll get into that a little bit. Round 2, tight end, Pat Freiermuth. Round 3, center, Kendrick Green. Now, he was announced as a guard, but he is a center. Hello to Jimmy as well. Round 4, offensive tackle, Dan Moore Jr. Another round 4, linebacker, Buddy Johnson. Round 5, a very interesting, because the Steelers did not have a round 5, and they traded significant draft capital to get it. And they actually traded a 20 pick next year in the 4th round to acquire Isaac Loudermilk. He's listed as a defensive end. Round 6, linebacker Quincy Roche. I don't know how to say it. Round 7, safety Trey Norwood, and round 7. Round 7, last pick in the draft, punter, Presley Harvin III. And if you watch my mock draft, you know that I am thrilled that they selected a punter, because I have wanted a punter every year. And this is this punter's got a giant leg. He's also giant himself. He is 5'11", played at 280. 5'11", 280. He actually, when went to the combine, he actually slimmed down to a nice 257, but he's 5'11". So a big boy back there putting the ball. But that is the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. They did have some unsigned free agents. They took a couple safeties, a couple corners, some kind of highly touted ones too, ones that people were excited about. Maybe they have an impact chance to make the team. A wide receiver that apparently put up big numbers. I didn't see too much about him, but that is the Steelers draft in the books. Very curious to see everyone's thoughts on this. I heard on my way home from Cleveland, I heard a guy just bashing the Steelers. I mean, I heard him completely bashing the Steelers for their pick of Najee Harris. And then he's kind of like whiting it out. And he's like, well, I think Najee Harris will be fine, but they really should have went O-line here. And they don't have the O-line to protect for him. And he's going to be, running backs are a dime a dozen, the same old talk. Najee Harris is, he's going to transform this offense. You got to understand, Steelers haven't had someone like this in a long time, and they missed it when it was gone. So they had a guy, Le'Veon Bell, who would change the game for them. And when he left, when he was on that holdout, James Conner couldn't fill the bill. Now, James Conner had a fine season the year Le'Veon Bell was out, but not, a fine workman-like season. He's not dynamically impacting the game. Not saying he didn't win a few games for them with his running ability, because he did have some good games. But Najee Harris can win a game for you, or 2, or 3, or more. Just based on the fact that you were a one-dimensional football team that last year, and now you're bringing this guy in, and this guy is going to deliver the goods. He's shown highlights. You can watch some of the highlights from the certain Alabama games where Alabama linemen got blown off the ball. They're the best team in college football, and the recruiting is excellent. But Alabama lineman got blown off the ball, and he made something out of nothing. That's what you're getting with this guy. You want him to make something out of nothing, and you want to make him even more out of something. And so you're getting that here. Dylan Moses was undrafted. That's right. There was a lot of people that were undrafted. Trill Williams, the guy I had in my mock draft, the 6'2" corner I had in the 6th round, did not go drafted. He ended up getting undrafted by the Saints. Dylan Moses was another one. Tuff Borland was another one. A lot of different names. Paris Ford from Pitt was another one. There were a lot of names of players and people that just did not get drafted in this draft. And it wasn't that they weren't talented. And, they'll probably circle the wagons and will come back as undrafted free agents. But it's very interesting that the Steelers, not just the Steelers, but that some of these players, kind of fell at certain points. Now, I said some of these names that people were highly touting fell in later rounds than what was expected. That Quinn Roche dude, the guy that was the 6th round pick, they said this. I think Keith Butler said the Steelers had a 3rd round grade on him, and they took other players ahead of him because they had him higher on their board than this Quinn Roche. So when they came around in the 6th and he was still there, if they feel that's a 3rd round player and you take him in the 6th, that's solid value. So you got to feel pretty good about that. They say he's a big steal, maybe the steal of the draft, and it's a need position as a backup edge guy. So the other thing was the safety. So when the safety came up, because the NFL does this for some reason, all safeties come up as defensive backs, which is fine. That's fine. But the thing is that you don't know whether your team's drafting a corner or whether they're drafting a safety. Now, sometimes it comes up as cornerback, and sometimes it comes up as defensive back. But it should come up as safety. That's what they are. Same with linemen. If you're a tackle, say you're a tackle. If you're a guard, say you're a guard. Don't say, if you're a center, say you're a center. They'll say guard, or it'll say tackle, but they're actually a center. So very strange. What do you think about JOK falling? Very interesting. I'm surprised, actually, that the Steelers didn't take him when they had the chance to. Because I think they would have taken him in the 2nd, but I think they're really high on Freiermuth, and I think Freiermuth has the chance to be really good tight end for this team for many years to come. I feel really good about that pick, but it's interesting that JOK fell really far, because he fell really far. I mean, if all the experts are touting this guy as a top 10 or top 15 talent, and he falls to almost the 3rd round, there's got to be something weird with him. Same thing would happen with that Trevor Morig, the safety, was touted as the best safety, and here comes a situation where he fell past other safeties that apparently, according to all the experts, weren't as good as him. But, I was talking about this today too. The expert thing is kind of a crapshoot. Mel Kiper's been doing this for a long time. Daniel Jeremiah and all these guys have been doing this for a long time. And how often are they right? And what I don't mean is not necessarily the 1st round guys, because the 1st round guys are easy. You see a guy, a Trevor Lawrence, a Zach Wilson, a Trey Lance, or whatever, and they're touting them as being the top guys, or Micah Parsons being touted as like the top 10 pick, and then he falls out, to like the 10 or 15. But what about these later round guys? These guys that they have graded, hey, this guy's the best player on my board, and it doesn't go for 5 rounds. Or this guy, I have him graded as a 3rd round guy. He doesn't go until the 7th round, or he sometimes doesn't go at all. There's a safety, I think, still out there. I didn't hear anybody pick him up, named Ardarius Washington. I saw mock drafts of him going as high as the late 2nd round. Ardarius Washington did not get drafted. And they say it has something to do with size. And I saw Steeler fans every round he came up going, Ardarius Washington, Ardarius Washington, and Ardarius Washington's still out there. The Steelers could pick him up right now because no one else is picking him up. Now, they say it has something to do with a size issue, that maybe he doesn't have the size for the game. He's too undersized. But, you know, what do these experts know? Because it seems that sometimes they hit on certain things and sometimes they don't hit correctly on others. Certain guys, they peg like, oh, I knew this guy from, you know, that he was supposed to be this guy. Like when the Steelers drafted in the 3rd round, they drafted the guy that was the center. I had never heard of him. I hadn't seen him in any of the mock drafts. I don't know anything about him. Then I go read an article that someone sent to me that, I wonder if I could find that quickly here, that this guy, let's see if I can find any, in the modern era, they judge based on offensive linemen. And there's a grading system for them. And in this grading system, this guy who we drafted in the 3rd round ranked 91 out of a possible like 1,000 players in terms of potential. 91 of all time since since 1987. So 1,000 players that have played the offensive line position. This guy's in the top 100 in how he's grading out on this statistic. But I'd never heard of him. I haven't seen him in any of the rounds. He's not being touted as one of the top guys. Yet I heard a ton about the Quinn Miners dude, the guy I wanted in my mock draft in the 3rd, and who ended up being taken by Kansas City a couple picks after our 3rd round pick. And that guy apparently hasn't played in 2 years. That Quinn Miners dude has not played in 2 years football. So why is he being touted so high from that small school when he hasn't played for 2 years? It's very confusing to me. I don't understand it. I don't understand, you know, so I would have liked the Quinn Miners guy, but I like the guy we got. I like him a lot better considering he actually played and he actually, you know, was a starter for the team. So, you know, I feel I like the center and tackle positions 3rd and 4th. The Steelers, according to reviews on the tackle, say he's not a project, that this is a guy that can come in and play right away, and they're saying he's going to compete right away for one of the top spots. Have him compete. I have no problem with that. Maybe he knocks the right tackle, you know, the guy that's the starting right tackle, which is Chuks Okafor. Maybe he knocks him out of the spot and Chuks becomes the backup. You've already improved your line. Maybe he knocks Banner out of his spot on left tackle. Now, they did say Chuks was the starting left tackle, not the starting right tackle, but I think that swaps in training camp, and hopefully this Dan Moore guy can beat one of these guys out of a job. I would have liked to have seen, I'm very confused. I'll tell you what, I do need to address something. I'm very confused about Isaiah Loudermilk. Defensive end, he was drafted in the 5th round, and I addressed this previously, but the Pittsburgh Steelers gave up a 2020 4th round pick next year to move into the 5th round to acquire this guy. The only thing I've heard about this guy is that, once again, here comes these experts again, that these experts have said that he was supposed to be undrafted, that he was going to fall out of the draft completely. And the Steelers move up into the 5th round, of which they did not have a 5th round pick. They gave up a 2022 4th next year to acquire this guy. Why this guy? What is the reason why they acquired this guy? Why do they like this guy so much that they would trade up for him? Why would it be in a position where that Quincy Roche dude, the guy that said they liked and had a 3rd round grade on in the 6th, they took him in the 6th round. But they had to trade up to get this guy in the 5th round, gave up a 4th next year to get this guy? Why? What? And he's defensive. He's listed as defensive end. Is he edge? Is he middle? The one thing the unfortunate thing about actually being in Cleveland today is I didn't get to do proper research on some of these guys. And so these picks, the 4th, 5, and 6, the Buddy Johnson, Isaiah Loudermilk, Quincy Roche, are they Is one guy edge, one guy outside, one guy inside, or is the defensive line just defensive line? Are you preparing for life after Cameron Hayward or to it, and this guy's going to take over your spot? For Buddy Johnson, is he an outside guy? Is, like I said, an edge, or is he a middle? And the Quincy Roach, I think, is an outside guy, so hopefully Buddy Johnson's a middle. But I just don't know where you're putting all these guys. Because here's the thing. In the draft, there's 4 positions, or 4 rounds. Really. There's 7 rounds, but 4 are the ones where you're getting people that are contributing to your team the most. First round pick are guys that aren't going to get cut. They're guys going to make the team contribute and hopefully become, a Pro Bowl player and beyond. The future leaders of your team. Second round, same deal. You're getting a contributor, a starter, someone that's going to hopefully ascend to a Pro Bowl level. Third round, once again, you're getting a starter or a contributor. Fourth round, you're getting a starter or a contributor. Steelers took it a step further. If you're giving up a 4th next year for a guy to jump into the 5th round, you're hopefully not cutting that guy. Because what you do, you'd wasted not only a 5th round pick this year, but a 4th round pick next year. So you're keeping him around as being a guy. 6th round is kind of a lottery ticket. You don't know. 6th round and 7th round are lottery tickets. Now, in this circumstance, I don't know if it is because that Quincy guy is easily going to make the team because he's at a position of need. That Trey Norwood will probably be a player that will stick around as long as he's got the game too because they don't have any safety depth. And your last pick in the draft, Presley Harvin, your punter, is probably going to take Jordan Perry's job. So there you go. They put a nice draft together. Is it as good as it could have been? Did some other teams draft better? It's hard to say. Obviously, with drafts, all we can say is what the experts think. So if an expert thinks that, hey, I don't like their draft because running backs are a dime a dozen. Well, that's a stupid way to think at it, and you don't understand sitting there and watching the struggles with the running game last year. And it wasn't all the line. I hate when people push it all the line. It was all the line's fault. It was all the line's fault. It wasn't all the line's fault. The line was bad last year, and it will be better this year. But there were running back woes as well. Sometimes they just couldn't deliver. And you can like Connor and like his story and like his history and like everything about him. But the fact is that he wasn't a guy that was coming in and I thought I turned the light off. Excuse me. He wasn't a guy that was coming in here and making home run game-changing plays. He was a guy that was coming in here and just putting serviceable work in, which was fine to an extent. I'm coming back, but she turned the light off on me. Excuse me, please. Leave that light on. He was a guy that was coming in here and, like I said, making steady plays when healthy, which wasn't a lot. Najee has been durable. Najee can make game-changing plays. So don't completely write off the draft because you weren't happy that they took a running back in the first round. Because you have now a capable running back of where there was a giant hole. You have a capable tight end of where there was a giant hole. That puts the fire under Eric Ebron in his drops, and the fact that maybe he won't be here any longer. Chloe, leave the light on, please. The fact that he may not be here any longer. So you have to wonder, is those 2 picks right there, do you feel that's enough to fix the offense and to fix the offensive woes that this team has had for a time or two? Let me know in the comments below whether you watch this now or you watch this after the fact. I'm not going to mess with the light anymore because just let her have it. But let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts on the draft. I feel pretty good about it. I think they kind of, there are times when here's the thing with the draft. Think of it like, I'm going to age myself here, but think of it like a toy catalog. You get a toy catalog in the mail. You start circling the stuff you want for Christmas. I want this guy, and I want this guy, and I want this guy, and I want this toy, and I want this toy. Setting yourself up for failure because you're not going to get all those toys. You're just not. So I made a mock draft. I looked into players. I dug certain players. I said, this player's great. This player's great. I like him. I see him as a Steeler. I see that one as a Steeler. Turns out that only one of the guys that I looked at and I went, I think this guy's a Steeler, turned out to be a Steeler. These things happen. So, setting yourself up for failure by thinking the Steelers are going to get every good player is just, it's not going to work. It can't work. So, I feel good about what the Steelers did. There are some questionable decisions, and I want them to prove me wrong. That Loudermilk guy, I just don't see a scenario why you trade up in the 5th round to take a defensive end when you have capable defensive ends and arguably something, in terms of depth for those guys, unless he's an edge guy. And if he's an edge guy, what does that explain about your other 2 linebacker guys? Are they all edge guys? Or is one of them a inside linebacker? I would love some clarification on those. But the defensive end guy, that's the one that confuses me the most, just because of what you gave up. Because you gave up a lot. If you consider, like I said, the first 4 rounds are contributors to your team, you not only gave up a 5th round pick, which could be a wild card pick this year, and a contributor potentially next year to move into this round to get this guy. I was, like I said, I was at the draft today. I was sitting inside Cleveland Brown State. I was inside Cleveland Brown Stadium, and I'm looking at the board, and the Steelers made their 2 4th-round selections. Oh, hi, Pop. Thanks for dropping in. And the Steelers made their 2 4th-round selections, and I was like, okay, well, they don't pick again until the 6th round, and they're rolling through the 5th round here, and then suddenly I look up at the screen, Pittsburgh's on the clock. And I went, ooh, what did they have to give up to jump to that? Now, I had assumed maybe they gave up their 6th and one of their 7th to move up to 5 because that's a lot of capital to move up. But no, giving up a 4th next year is big money. Big money in this draft. Big money, unless you feel that you're getting a comp pick for a 4th and you like this guy, but the problem is nobody's heard of him too much. And it's not a situation like a Kevin Dotson where you found a diamond in the rough, but everybody, or Alex Highsmith, small school guys that you can develop into something. This guy, nobody's heard anything on him. And who's to say he wouldn't have been there? Is it a guarantee? Or do they get smoke from somewhere? Does another team kind of like insinuate like, hey, that guy that you were looking at that's going to be undrafted? We're going to find him and like we're going to pick him right ahead of you. Like, where do they get tipped off like this? Or is it just like a sense of foreboding or fear that they're missing out? It's very strange to me. So if you want me to grade the draft, Pop, I can do that. No, I've never really graded a draft, so I'm going to do this on a curve a little bit in the sense that, I don't know enough about it. And since I was in Cleveland most of the day, I didn't actually get to research some of these later picks that I usually do. So, coming back, I just heard them on a screen and kind of did some minor research on the drive home. But I feel really good about Najee Harris pick 1. So I would give that an A. Obviously not an A+ for the same reasons that people always freak out about running backs being thing, but I think he makes a dynamic shift for our offense, and I think he's solid. Pat Freiermuth, also an A. Guy is something we haven't had probably since Heath Miller in terms of a durable, capable, pass-catching, run-blocking, complete package tight end. Not saying there weren't other players there that they could have went that may or may not have been better. Who's to say? What I hate is that Jalen Twyman... You know what? Now, they had projected Twyman as a 4-3 DT. We run a 3-4. I wanted Twyman, to be honest with you. I liked his game. I thought he would be a solid backup depth piece for Alu. In case Alu came out, he could come in. And they passed on him several times. They passed on a few people several times. It's very strange to me. So this is where it gets tricky as far as the grades. Center Kendrick Green, round 3. Obviously, they have a need for center. They want to, this guy's probably going to start for the team. I don't know enough about him, but I did like that statistics that he was rated in the top 100 as a offensive line since 1987. They rate them on the thing, and he's in the top 100 of grading this certain technique. I don't know what that grade's based on, but I would have to give that a B+ just because he's our starter, and he'll probably be our starter. He's going to have to, let's put it this way, if he doesn't beat out BJ Finney or JC Hassenauer for the top gig, then that grade goes down significantly. Twyman could play a 3-4 DE. He's like a young Cam Hayward to me. And you know what? Maybe he is, and maybe he's someone that they'll regret passing up on. The one thing on Twyman, didn't he sit out 2020? Apparently, the Steelers had some bias against players that sat out for 2020. They didn't pick any players that sat out the 2020 season, and they looked down on them. They reflected negatively on those players. So, yeah. So Kendrick Green, I say a B+. Dan Moore, offensive tackle, I would put that as also a B+, just because they say he's a tackle that he's ready to go, that he's not someone that's going to take a trial, or not someone that is a red shirt, like someone that's going to have some grooming, or he's raw. They're saying he's ready to develop and play right away. So I put that as a B. Buddy Johnson, say I don't know enough about him to really grade him. I don't even know if he plays inside or edge. I don't know kind of what the position is on him, because as mentioned, I was in Cleveland today, so I don't know enough about him. Isaiah Loudermilk, defensive end, like I said, the only things I read on this guy was that he was supposed to be undrafted, and the Steelers traded a 4th next year to access this guy. Traded into the 5th round to access this guy. So he better be good. But I will give that a C-, just because if they're telling me guy comes in and he's okay, Kendrick Green's really good. I saw some film and he is so athletic. He's really good in the run block. I know there were some concerns with his size. I think he's only like 6'1" or something like that. So a bit smaller. And in this grading system of the top 100 players, he was his size was the one factor that kind of like made him fall down the list. Sorry, I'm doing something. They said his size, he was too small. And, that will be concerning when you're playing top guys, when you're playing giant humans like 6'7", 6'8" guys that he may run into. Now, he's a center. There's usually not a lot of DTs that are giant like that, but I mean, you're talking some of them are 6'4", 6'5". He's a 6'1" guy. It doesn't mean he can't carry the load. It's just, you know how they look at things. It's something where they would be concerned about him. Buddy Johnson plays middle linebacker. Okay, cool. So Buddy Johnson's middle linebacker in round 4. I love that pick. People were hoping for like JOK instead of Freiermuth in the 2nd, and I certainly understand that. Him with Bush would have been real nice. Would have been real nice, don't get me wrong. And that will be maybe an argument for years to come down the road, is JOK was there. If he turns into a star that all these experts seem to think he was, then they're going to regret that choice. That'll be something that they'll regret for years to come, that maybe they should have picked that guy inside, whether or not Freiermuth is good. So, okay, so that's an inside guy. Round 5, as mentioned a few times, Isaiah Loudermilk. Is he a D-end? Is he a backup for Tuitt? Is he a backup for Hayward? Or is he someone that is taking Hayward or Tuitt's job as they're getting older? Either way, I have some concerns about that one. a lot of concerns about that one, but I don't have concerns. And I wouldn't, like I said, I think I said C- on that. I don't have concerns based on the information and stuff I heard about Quincy Roche or whatever. Like I said, Steelers had a 3rd round grade on him. They were calling him a steal. He had 30 plus tackles in his college career, or sorry, 30 plus sacks. That's a big difference. 30 plus sacks in his college career. As an outside guy, we need depth as an in the outside. Depth behind Watt. Depth behind Highsmith. I think he could be good. I think he could be capable spot starter guy and tremendous value in the 6. So I will give that a B+. 7th round, they got a safety, Trey Norwood. Look, I don't want another season, so many seasons now, where Jordan Dangerfield is back there for another year, another Jordan Dangerfield year. Seems like every year Jordan Dangerfield, and they don't ever seem to invest any capital in the safety position to kind of remove Jordan Dangerfield from the running here. So the cool thing about Norwood is Norwood plays corner, Norwood plays slot, Norwood plays safety. They call him a Swiss Army knife, so he can play a variety of positions, and that's a great thing. Let's see. Quincy was a steal, was projected as a late 3rd, early 4th. You say A+. And you know what? You may be right about that. Like I said, other than his intangibles, and the Steelers rated him as a great player, I didn't know enough about him to say, like, this is a home run, can't miss player. I will feel really good that we have a capable depth guy that can come in for an injured Highsmith, or knock on wood, an injured Watt, and come in and, or a spot start, or even just, spelling them for a drive or two, and that he's capable of making big plays and delivering the goods. So, that could be an A+. Trey Norwood, same thing there. B+ thing, just because he's a Swiss Army knife, can do a variety of different things for a defense that has a variety of different needs. Needs center, needs corner, needs slot corner, or nickel corner, sorry. And if he can play all of those positions in a pinch, I call it B, and I call, Quincy and Trey, and I call B+ just because they're also 6th and 7th round picks. Not saying they don't have the potential to be higher picks. There's, a lot of players that were 6th and 7th round picks became perennial all pros. Quincy has the potential to be a starter. That's, something that if he can be, a capable starter and it comes in and delivers the goods, making plays, sacking the quarterback, eating the quarterback, I'm okay with it. So hopefully it is an A+ right there. But last pick in the draft, and look, I know certain people aren't thrilled about it. I'm thrilled. Thrilled! If you watch my mock drafts, every year, I've done a mock draft the last 4 years. I think in every draft, I said 7th round pick, I had the Steelers drafting a punter. I had the Steelers drafting a punter because I can't watch Jordan Berry's terrible punts anymore. I can't watch his terrible punts anymore. I see Trey as safety depth with our signings after the draft. And you're right, yeah. A lot of undrafted free agent corner signings. Some receiver, I think another safety as well from Penn State. So a lot of different corners in that. But Presley Harvin is an interesting story. Won the Ray Guy Award, I believe, in 2019. In 2020, in 2020, it was Max Duffy who actually had in my mock draft. Max Duffy 28. Presley Harvin had, arguably better distance punts and is a big boy. I mean, 5'11", 280, they said he played at last year. That's interesting. I don't know if he's going to be running down some tackles. Is Sherman available still? Sherman. Why am I blanking on who Sherman is? Who's Sherman? Let me know who Sherman is. Let me know the name, and I'll give it a quick check. But I'm blanking on the name Sherman. But Presley Harvin said, can make the big punts. He's going to cost Jordan Berry his job. I hammer it home, and a lot of people don't invest stock and put things. Oh, Richard Sherman. Yeah. You know what? I heard actually an article today about Pete Carroll talking to him about coming back. But yes, he is still available because oh my God. Yes, he is still available because no one has signed him yet. So it's closing up on me. But yeah, there's actually some interesting free agent names that the Steelers could potentially be kicking around. But so you like the pick. Guy was the best punter in college. He can throw deep balls. I saw the highlight of him throwing about not to insult Antoine Randall L. But a Randall L level accurate touch pass, 47 yards. I mean, a good, over the shoulder pass on a trick play. And that was nice. I don't know if he can do that consistently, but I'll take it if he can. Let's see. I think that Sherman should not be a starter, not anymore. Now, he should not be a starter. I don't think Sherman should be a starter, but I think Sherman can bring value to a young cornerback unit that would need veteran, person that's done it in big games before. A person that can coach them up kind of as a player on the field. I think as a depth guy is somebody you can bring in and coach up these young guys, on a field level as a teammate. So I wouldn't mind that. Just because the name's there. Do you think Pittsburgh should take a shot at picking up Aaron Rodgers? So this is interesting, and it's fascinating that the Steelers seem to be in some sort of weird discuss, or at least articles are mentioning this. What do you give up for an Aaron Rodgers? For an Aaron Rodgers that is not much younger than Ben. Maurice Jones-Drew was saying Ben and a third for Rodgers. Now, what outside of Madden 2021 is this, that they would actually take that? Because you're getting a guy that's, older still. So Green Bay's getting a guy maybe less disgruntled, but that may only play one more year in Ben. Is that something that, and Rodgers, who knows how long Rodgers is, and is Rodgers going to be happy here? I love Rodgers and I love his play, but he's disgruntled and he's pissy and he bitches and moans all the time about, and look, I will be fair to Rodgers in a sense that Green Bay has not drafted him any help in the first round. The last offensive player they drafted, Green Bay did, besides Jordan Love, was Aaron Rodgers. They're not getting him a top-flight receiver that he's been asking for forever. They're not giving him any offensive help. And then they draft his successor. But here's the one thing I have as a counterpoint on Rodgers. How did Rodgers get the job he's in currently? He was drafted as the successor to Brett Favre. He didn't have a problem with that. Brett Favre had a problem with that. And now Aaron Rodgers is Brett Favre. He's upset that the Green Bay drafted a guy that's going to take his job because he's getting older. He's getting older. Now, I just don't know I don't know why it seems that the Steelers are being talked about here, because it sounds like San Francisco and Denver gave up they put up significant currency on these drafts. So they put up something like, a first round pick a couple nights ago, like number 9 with Denver or number 3 with San Francisco, a couple young players, maybe a Brandon Ayuk, even Garoppolo they were giving up. to get Rodgers. A lot of capital. Denver, they said, at a compelling offer. Now, he didn't say what that was, but it probably involved the number 9 pick last night. Boxes. A baseball glove. Sorry, my it involved the number 9 pick. Yeah, it involved the number 9 pick, and I'm sure a bunch of younger players as well. Yeah. The receiving core in Pittsburgh is outstanding, and that's right. A flagpole. And the receiving core in Pittsburgh is outstanding. You're right. And definitely an improvement. Well, not necessarily, I would say, Rodgers has Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams is really good. But beyond Devontae Adams, it's been kind of like a patchwork thing. Not necessarily the depth that the Steelers have. I say we just stay with Ben this year and see what we can get in next year's draft. Hopefully Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell. Now, this is the big discussion. What do you expect out of the Steelers this year? Walking around Cleveland today, I got a lot of pats on the back. I got a lot of, Cleveland is very, and look, they're putting together a nice team. I was a big fan of their draft. They're putting together a nice team, but they are very braggadocious, very cocky. They feel that they got the Steelers number 1 this last year, and they have it for years to come. Do you feel the Steelers are in a position that they're going to play so badly that they're going to have a top 5 pick next year to get one of these top QBs, or were they going to have to trade many future years draft picks in order to jump in that top 5 to get one of these big guys? I've been thinking after the Mason Rudolph rumor, I think that if they extend him one more year, they will draft a QB in 2022, and Mason will play until the next QB is ready. Do you see that happening? They would have to sit the bench for a year or two. That is exactly what I think, and I think that 1-year extension prior to the draft kind of set this in motion. Because currently, the Pittsburgh Steelers, prior to that Mason extension, had no quarterbacks set to return for 2022. None are on the books. So no Mason, no Dobbs, no Dwayne Haskins, no Ben. You had no quarterbacks on roster. Now you have one. You have Mason Rudolph for 2022. So say this is Ben's last run, and say they play kind of, I'm not saying they're going to rip off 11 straight because that's asking too much, but let's say they're a playoff team this next year. Do you feel they can get the top guys? We would have to trade up, but what does that entail? Jimmy G in Pittsburgh next year. Now, that is something I kind of always assumed would happen post-Ben. Just because I feel like the Steelers would be in a position where they didn't want to give up the capital to trade up into this top pick, that they would take some veteran guy for like a year. Now, that was prior to the Mason extension. I think Mason is handed the keys next year no matter what they do. And maybe they do a situation kind of like what some of the teams did this year, where they take a guy like Kyle Trask or, the other guy, Davis Mills. Kind of like a second, third round Band-Aid. And then when Mason's gone, maybe then you draft up. I don't know if it's something where they'll draft up next year unless they get a sweetheart of a deal. Somebody because for example, Chicago traded up this year for Fields. They traded up from 20 to, what was it? 20 to, was it 12 they traded up to? And they gave up a first next year. Interestingly enough, the Pittsburgh Steelers traded up from 20 to 10 to get Devin Bush, and they didn't give up a first round the next year. They only give up like a third or a fourth or something, a couple picks, but it wasn't a first round pick. So that's interesting that they can do that, but but Chicago had to give up all this, this so much to get Fields. It was very interesting that they were able to do that. That's just too scary. Mason with the keys. Hey, look, I hear you. I'm concerned, to be honest with you. I mean, I know this is Ben's last run. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do think if you're signing Mason through another year, he's the only QB on roster. He will be getting the keys, barring some outside option, barring them making a trade or having some deal or something. I think the Steelers building a good offensive line for next QB, tight end second, lead running back, and upgrading the O-line because Pat and those OLs will make an early impact in the rookie season. And you're right. They're building around, a lot of people seem to throw away the Najee pick and throw away the Pat pick, and they're saying, that won't make too much of a difference this year. But it's not about this year. Not really. Obviously, you want the team to be competitive and win, and it's Ben's last hurrah, arguably. I would assume he's not coming back for another season. But, I wouldn't count him out either. I didn't know if he was going to come back for this season, and here he is. But, you're going to have a patchwork situation when he does finally decide to hang it up, barring a trade or barring them significantly trading the future to trade up to get a top guy, and they better be right. Because if you trade up for a top guy and that top guy is RG3 or Ryan Leaf or, name anyone, there's just as many bad guys as there are good guys. So it's a shaky proposition. Sometimes, knowing the Steelers, they may want a guiding hand veteran, which would be like a Jimmy G, which would be like a I'm trying to think who would be out there a couple years from now. Oh, God. A Darnold. A Jameis Winston. A Cam Newton. Who knows? I mean, yeah. We got spoiled with Big Ben. Now we've seen how bad Mitch was in Chicago, but if he does develop in Buffalo, do you think he'd be a starter somewhere? So Mitch Trubisky is interesting. Chicago hated his guts, and they kept writing him off, and he kept coming in and getting the team to the playoffs. Now, they never did anything beyond the playoffs, but he was never as bad as they always made him out to be. Obviously wouldn't want him to have the keys in Pittsburgh unless, he proved himself to be a capable starter. But, he could develop in Buffalo because he doesn't have the pressure on him of being a first-round pick. Now he's just another guy. Now Allen's the guy. So he doesn't have that pressure where he's got to, this guy's got to be, he's got to be the one. He's the third overall pick, and now he's just a guy making $2.5 million sitting on the bench. So potentially, yes. Cam Newton was really good in his prime. Injuries killed his career. Absolutely. I mean, guy was an MVP. Almost won a Super Bowl. I mean, let's say almost won a Super Bowl. They got killed by Denver, but definitely something that, it's nervous as a Steeler fan moving forward. You don't know kind of what quarterback you're getting, what quarterback play for the future. The hope being is that you have a team that you build around that if you even give a guy that just has the thought or the potential just to be capable, that you may have a team that can win some games just because of his supporting cast and not necessarily the quarterback himself. It's just a wonder of, is that guy in the roster? Is that guy Mason Rudolph? Not based on what I've seen. Although, throats kill me tonight. Although that water, or that game against Cleveland, remember, Cleveland, everybody wants to put the rosy idea of Cleveland coming into Pittsburgh and killing them in a playoff game. But the week before, they struggled. Cleveland, with a 17-year playoff drought on the line, with all this hype and all this buildup and all these big names, almost got beat by Mason Rudolph in their own city, in their own stadium. With the playoffs on the line, 17 years. That's how, very close. 26-22, I think, was the final. So 26-22 was one of the, and Mason almost pulled that game off. Almost knocked Cleveland out of the playoffs completely. And so Cleveland has all this hype and all this thing, and they're going to be the next team and all this stuff, but they couldn't even beat, they couldn't even beat Mason Rudolph barely. So is that potential that maybe Mason Rudolph is show flashes that he could be the guy? Maybe. Wish we could find another Charlie Batch. And Charlie Batch was a capable starter, would come in for a spot starter too. Always slightly nerve-wracking when he would, but, would come in, deliver the games, deliver the goods. Another one, kind of an unsung guy, Byron Leftwich would come in and occasionally give you a victory or two. Not obviously to the same year in, year out situation as Charlie Batch, but, it's a bit nervous. Bit nervous as a Steeler fan, just looking at the potential of what QBs could be moving forward. I would have some concerns about what they're going to do. We don't know the future. We don't know if this team's going to tank this year. A lot of people don't seem to be high in the Steelers this year. They think they're going to tank. I respectfully disagree. I think the Steelers have the potential to be a playoff team. I think Tomlin will get that all-time record of how many consecutive winning seasons as coach, even if that is 9-8 with a 17-game season this year. I think he does that. I think this team, like I said, maybe not necessarily a deep playoff run, but they will be a wild card playoff team. That's my prediction. You can respectfully agree or disagree. But I think Ben's going to be better than the media is portraying him as. That dummy Adam Shine from CBS Sports Network called the Steelers the worst QB situation in the league, or one of the worst QB situations in the league prior to the draft. Did he look at Chicago? Did he look at Washington? Did he look at the Eagles? Jacksonville. Remember, these are all prior to the draft. New York Jets. Carolina. Panthers even. There's so many teams you could name that have much worse QB situations than the Steelers. Much worse. And is that, the fact that he's trying to angle that they should have taken a QB in this draft? I knew they weren't going to take a QB in this draft. I knew they weren't. They weren't because they signed Rudolph to the longer deal. They have Ben. They have Haskins, Haskins is replacing another 5th round, 6th round quarterback that they would have drafted. And they have Josh Dobbs, who was a 4th round quarterback a couple years back. They're not going to take a quarterback this year. And I didn't want them to be honest. I think Mike Tomlin wanted to lose that guy because if we defeated Browns, we would have had to play against Colts. I don't know. I think they're going to go 11-6. I don't know if that's the case. I think they do play to win, and I think there's enough competition in the AFC North that they would have had a nice feather in their cap, that they would have knocked the Browns out for another season again. Similar to, for example, the a few years back, it was Cowher's last season, right after Super Bowl 40. And the last game of the season, they were a meddling team, not doing very well. And it was Santonio Holmes, I think, season where he caught that pass to end the Bengals' chances at a, they would fall down the draft board. So they got a worse draft pick, but they actually beat Cincinnati and knocked them out of the playoffs in the last game of the season. They got a kick out of that. And I think Cowher enjoyed that. I think that's the stuff that they like. So I think they would have been more interested in knocking Cleveland out of the playoffs than seeding potential matchups. But I could be wrong. You never know what people think. You can only speculate what they think and what they're thinking. But I really think he wasn't too worried about seeding as much as he was worried about knocking Cleveland out of the playoffs. And I really think Mason played his best game as a Steeler in that game. He really showed the goods. I mean, he was putting them on on the button to Claypool and others. And that was at the point where Ben kind of wasn't looking that good heading into that second half of the season. And, it'll be interesting to see if they don't have too many COVID scares and run into that, because a lot of people seem to think, the Steelers just down the stretch kind of fell apart. And really, nobody seems to bring up the fact that they had about 900 COVID schedule switches, which on a game and a thing based on routine is a big issue for a team. The Tennessee game, because keep in mind, Tennessee players were infected. They swapped that game around about 4 different times. And then Tennessee got like a bye after, and the Steelers didn't, or something like that. Or the Steelers had to waste their bye in week 4 when they had one scheduled for week 10. Then what really did them in, and where they were never the same team since, was the Ravens game, where the Ravens, I will repeat, the Ravens got infected. Once again, it wasn't the Steelers, and they bounced that game around, and they played that game on a Wednesday afternoon at like 4 o'clock, and they played RG3 or someone, or just a bomb, whoever their next guy was, and barely couldn't win because they were all over the place because it was sloppy. So it'll be nice to have hopefully, let's knock on wood again, hopefully a season that's not where the Steelers have to bounce around their schedule and they can play a routine season to see what you got with this team. That would have been so funny. Imagine Rudolph getting revenge and knocking the Browns out of contention. And you know what? It would have been hilarious. And he almost did. He really almost did. But yeah, our season was too difficult. And it was too difficult just because of the fact that the COVID switches were making things really hard. I mean, and I think a team just goes through too many of that, and they kind of like shut down where, you feel like kind of like, is this worth doing this? Is, people going against you, and people, like the scheduling thing's going against you, and switching the games is going against you, and everything seems to be against you. And you're just like, how much more can you put up with? I really think this team just, kind of like they kind of like did that thing that Steelers seem to do, where they're like, we're 11-0 and we're the best team, and if you come in here, you're going to lose, but not thinking they actually have to play a game. It's just assuming people are going to lose, and that just didn't happen. Fell off the rails. There's so many teams that have great, potential, great seasons, and then just falls off the rails. But I don't want to hear this situation about some bum team now because they fell apart down the stretch, while not mention any of the COVID schedule switches or injuries or anything like that, because it was all involved in that. So going back to the Steelers draft, love the draft, love the notable pieces they added. Feel very confident about this team this year. Shored up all the holes that they're going to shore up. Could they have got, a higher tackle or center or corner or edge? Yes. But team went into this draft with a variety of needs, came out of it with all those needs filled. There's no glaring like, man, they really should have went after this position, because they handled that position for better or for worse. You might not like the fact that they took a running back and a tight end, but they desperately needed a running back and a tight end. Based on where those players were taken, the talent level fell down a cliff in both circumstances after those players. Not after Najee, because there was Etienne and there was Javonte Williams, but Najee was still the number 1 rusher. And Pat Freiermuth was the number 2 tight end on almost everyone's board. Washington's D is what beat the Steelers, and you may be right about that too. They did not look good in that game, and it started to really kind of, like I said, Alex Smith, they beat them, right? Alex Smith's comeback game, of course, was against the Steelers, but yeah, it didn't look good. That's the thing concerns me is the O-line in this year, but in 2022 it'll be better with Moore and Green. And you know what? I'll be interesting to see what developments they make, what impact they make as starters this year, because I do think both of them will get games. I do think both of them will play in games this season as starters. But it's time will tell whether I'm right or not about this team and this draft and kind of everything. But isn't that the case with all drafts? That's why they play the games. But I think Ben has a better season than what these experts, these people that get paid all this money to say Ben's washed, he's had it, or whatever. They said that last year, and then they ripped off 11 straight, and then they're like, well, they weren't real wins because they were all against bummy teams. And it's like, you know how hard it is in this league to win 11 straight games? It's very hard. So don't give me this, it was against bad teams. It was against good teams as well. Now, if Tom Brady did that, it'd be like, oh, he's the GOAT. He should do that. And it's like, yeah, Tom Brady at times looked terrible last season. But, of course, they let him win another Super Bowl, so he'll never retire. But, it's interesting to see how certain players are portrayed. Ben has never been able to live down his previous indiscretions, and they hammer it on him if Ben pulled the things that Aaron Rodgers is pulling right now, oh my God, would it be a media circus about him? He can't, he does this and he's going to say to fire the GM, because that's what Aaron Rodgers said. Aaron Rodgers today, they had him some interview. He's like, I'll come back, I'm disgruntled, but I'll come back if you fire the GM. Bold, you're a player. You're not the Green Bay Packers. You're Aaron Rodgers, a guy. You only won one Super Bowl for them, and you lost countless NFC Championship games. But if you're telling me Ben comes in and he goes, I'll come back for one more year, but you got to fire Colbert. I don't like him. Who's he? I love Ben. Ben gave me the ability to see 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 Super Bowl championships for the Steelers in my lifetime. So I'm thrilled with Ben, but at the same time, Ben is a player. He is not the ownership, and he cannot go in there and make those decisions. But you don't hear ESPN freaking out saying Aaron Rodgers is cocky, and how dare he go and do that. No one's saying that because it's Aaron Rodgers. And if Tom Brady did that, he's just a competitor and wants to win. But if Ben did that, oh my God, they would freak out. The only scenario I see Moore and Green will play in the rookie season if Chooks and Finney get injured. Steelers don't like to play rookies, and I agree. However, fate will force the Steelers' hand here. Steelers love to kick the can down the road. Oh, we brought these guys in because they're the future. But the last couple years, as you've seen time and time again, these players that they don't like to start keep finding their way into the lineup. Happened with Edmonds, happened with Bud, happened with Highsmith, happened with Watt. It's going to force their hand. In this circumstance, they don't like to play rookies, but Najee's going to be their running back. Freiermuth is going to be their backup tight end. On 2 tight end sets, he's the guy. And if Ebron got hurt, he'd be the guy. Green and Moore come in as potential. I think he beats the center out of a job. And I think, the one guy will push for tackle. Maybe he's a swing tackle. He comes in on spot starts and, the occasional start based on an injury. So I think that's what you're getting. Some of these other guys, these later picks, they're lottery tickets. You don't know if even they're going to make the team, let alone actually play. So Steelers don't like to start rookies, but they're going to have to. And it's Ben's last season. They're going to want to give Ben the best chance they have to win because he's their best chance at winning. because they don't have anyone. Not like they're grooming a guy waiting in the wings. They have what they have. So he's going to be someone that's, maybe even pushing for some of these guys to start if he feels more comfortable in them being center and tackle over these other guys. And obviously preseason and things like that will show whether they can be, whether they can be guys that will come in day one. And I think some of them can. I think at least one of two, the center probably for sure, will be the center week one. Is there any good free agent linemen still? There are, actually. There are a couple guys. I'm trying to remember who. Blanking on their names. But there was like a tackle. Not too much center-wise. There were a couple guards out there that were guys that played a good bit of games last year. 10, 15, 16 games for certain teams last year. And, KC tackles. Now, going based off Super Bowl 55, do you necessarily want the KC tackles in there? Because they were getting run through like an open door in that Super Bowl. But, for a depth tackle, not a bad thing to have. And it'll be interesting. I do feel the Steelers will add a veteran guy at some position. Maybe line, maybe, I don't know necessarily you have to really add them, but I do think they will have a veteran add, not necessarily right after the draft or like later this week, but like maybe like training camp, end of training camp, before the start of the season. I think there will be a guy added. I just don't know in what position. Schwartz didn't play in the Super Bowl, I believe. Yeah, I think Schwartz will command some dollars. Eric Fisher, even though he was terrible, will command big dollars. They're not going to get those guys. They're going to get unsung hero type of guys, second tier, third tier spot linemen to compete for a position. Think of like Joe Haig. They just picked up Joe Haig from the Tampa Bay Bucks as a swing tackle. Think about somebody of that ilk, somebody that will just be a guy that will come in, put out some capable starts, get some depth piece in there. I feel like that's something that they could easily do. Easily. And, basically by selecting Dan and Joe Haig and having Banner and Shooks, that puts the bow on Villanueva. Now, the Ravens said they were signing Villanueva after the draft. I didn't see it officially if they did. But, Villanueva had some good years for us. Unfortunately, last year he was a liability. He was not very good. And Ravens said they would probably pay Villanueva at right tackle, which is smart. But, I think he'll be more capable there. But then you think about the sweet, sweet, fantastic thought of Villanueva trying to stop TJ Watt from breaking around that edge as a right tackle. And good luck, dude. I like Villanueva, but good luck there. Just based on his play last year and a chance he's stopping Watt if he goes to this thing. What do you think of Ravens draft? Good question. I didn't actually get to look at the full capabilities of, what their draft was in the books. Okay, so they got 2021 draft recap for the Baltimore Ravens. Rashad Bateman, they've been trying to push for a receiver for how long? Not my favorite receiver, although he's pretty good. And they have some other projects they're working for receiver-wise. I still don't feel that they have that top guy. Maybe Bateman could be that. Owa, here's the interesting thing about Owa. He's a freak of nature. Or Owe, or how, I don't know how you say it. But you're talking about a 6'5" guy who runs a 4.3 40. But, that should terrify you as a Steelers fan, except for the fact that he ran that 6'5", 4.3 40 playing for Penn State this year and had 0 sacks, not one. So, what is the deal there? I don't know enough to know why he had no sacks, but I'm terrified of someone that 6'5" runs a 4.3 40. Who's going to throw him the ball? A very good point. That would be awesome to see, and I love him. He's okay guy, but not as a player. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Lamar Jackson, he was the MVP a couple seasons ago, and you can certainly hang your hat on that. But last season, he was bad. Bad. And you don't hear national media calling him out for having a bad season. He's bad. And I watched that Ravens game where he threw Alex Highsmith the ball, didn't even see him there. You can watch it. I can't remember if it was their first meeting or their second, but Alex Highsmith came in on a spot, it's to spell Bud. Bud wasn't hurt yet. I don't think Bud was hurt yet, or maybe Bud had to leave the game early. I can't remember what the scenario was, but he threw the ball, and Alex Highsmith was just like, "Gift, thank you." It was a bad throw, and he didn't have the motive. He had situations where he looked less than capable, and he's kind of a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. Obviously, the running the ball is exceptional. He can run out of run their designed runs and stuff. He is exceptional. And occasionally he'll throw a gem of the ball, but occasionally he'll throw some wild stuff. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. The rest of the draft for the Ravens, Ben Cleveland, I did look him as Steelers guard. That could be interesting. DB, Brandon Stevens, not familiar with him. Tylan Wallace, I do like as a receiver from Oklahoma State. I liked his, watched his highlights, kind of like him. Another DB, Sean Wade, I've heard good things about him. Dalen Hayes, Notre Dame. Ben Mason, Michigan. I mean, I say it's a pretty quality draft. I saw a few drafts and I was kind of looking over. I didn't look over everyone's draft. But I looked over, kind of in the division and was, everybody's getting stronger. Isn't that what the draft's all about? And then there's the Raiders who, I did like the tweet someone put out where it said that John Gruden went rogue and he wasn't listening to anyone. He was just making picks. And, I didn't see their draft to see what they were talking about, but apparently they said they made some kind of wild picks, and I don't know. The Raiders are one of those teams that I remember them drafting the 250th best safety when there's only 250 players total selected in the second round because he ran like a 4.3 40 or something. That's the Raiders. That's what they do. Jackson can be nice at receiver. You know what? He would probably be a game-changing receiver. But quarterback, hit or miss. Jackson can, Wade is a good nickel corner. Yeah, I saw a little bit on Wade, and I like him. I like what they did with the draft. They addressed their offense. They addressed the receiver in the first round, which was long overdue for them. They addressed they had 2 picks in the first round. Now, everybody thought they were going to go after offensive line because they traded Orlando Brown, but that did not happen. They didn't go O-line until the third. So maybe they feel confident in Big Al playing right tackle for them, and probably so. It's going to be interesting to it'll be interesting to see if Big Al can stop kind of these elite people on the side. Is he going to be tangling with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt coming off the edge? And, it'll be interesting to see whether he can do that or not. Raiders selected – oh, yeah, that's right. They selected Leatherwood. That's right. They selected Leatherwood when they were much capable. Now, what's that to say about certain teams that there were needy tackles on the board, Jenkins, Darisaw, and they were getting passed up, and then Jenkins didn't go till the second, right? Jenkins was there in the second round, and Darisaw didn't go till 23 when he was being projected in like the top 10. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, for them taking a tackle as their top pick, Leatherwood, who probably would have been there in the second, I don't understand them sometimes, but look, that's the thing. That's why everybody says mock drafts are silly, because teams have certain values on certain guys, and some play better and some play worse, and some have a higher tape. And there's guys that, even guys that I heard that were like day 3 guys that did not get drafted in this draft. Ardarius Washington was a highly touted safety that people were projecting at the end of the second. And he, as far as I know, didn't sign with anyone. Still, the draft's over. He did not get drafted. So that's right. Jenkins to Bears at 39. Jenkins was being projected to the Steelers, to the Raiders, to Miami at 18. I saw comps all over the place, but all those comps were in the first round. So the fact that he didn't go until later than that is pretty wild. But once again, maybe Gruden's laughing all the way to the bank if Leatherwood turns out to be a perennial All-Pro. People will remember that he's a crazy person that just went rogue and drafted him above the elite tackles. Maybe Jenkins is a bum. No one seems to know. But yeah, that, let me know. You can leave a comment, reach out, feel free to reach out. Let me know your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. Did they fulfill all your Steeler Christmas wishes? Did they give you everything you wanted from them and more? But I've been talking now for an hour and 15 minutes, and my throat has closed up on me 3 times and went through 2 bottles of water. Let's see. Brevin Jordan fell to 4th round. He was tight end 3. Yeah, I looked at Jordan's tape because I was trying to figure out either Jordan or Tommy Tremble for my mock draft. And so I looked at Jordan. I almost had Jordan in my mock draft. Was surprised that he fell to the 4th round because I would have probably had him in the 3rd. But yeah, very like I said, the draft's wild, man. And only time will tell in years to go whether, it's fun. I'll tell you what I want you all to do if you could, just as enjoyment. After you watch this live stream, and I appreciate everybody watching, commenting, and putting the stuff in there. Let's see, Harris was an excellent pick. I agree. Draft wasn't what I wanted, but with the draft I learned a lot, and I'm happy. Yeah, and like I say, it wasn't necessarily what I wanted either, but I thought we got some solid picks, and I feel good about it. But what I want you to do after this video's over, on YouTube, there is a little, basically NFL draft, it's like hour long. You don't have to watch the whole hour or anything, but what it is it's the first round of a draft from different years, 2011, 2012, 2015, condensed to an hour. And I want you to hear these same pundits and these same people talk about guys like Jamarcus Russell, Money Manziel, name a player that turned out to be a bum, and they're like, this guy's going to be the next coming. They're going to be the greatest that's ever been. You hear these names, and they're bust after bust after bust, and these are high-touted first-round guys. And you're hearing these people that are going off the board, and it's like Reggie Jackson, or, you're hearing these names, you're like, who's that guy? It's like, that guy was a first-round pick, and, and it's every year. Every year. You can watch any draft every year, and half of these guys that are going to come off the board will be bums. People, you won't remember that they were, it'll be one of those things where it was like, he signed with, Jacksonville for a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. And then somebody will be like, oh yeah, he was drafted in the first round, like pick 9. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. So as much as you love these players, as much as you've done research on these players, and as much as you feel confident about these players moving forward, some of these players that are in this draft, whether good or bad draft, will be bums, will be terrible. I remember a few years back when the Steelers drafted Terrell Edmonds, and I'm like, and then you saw mock drafts where he was being mocked in the 5th round, and you're like, they do that reach. You can see Peyton Turner for the Saints in the 1st round, but I think he's a sleeper. Yeah, I saw projections of him in the 4th round, and then some people were real high on him. Thanks, Ray, for watching. I appreciate that. I like the good feedback. I like when everybody comes in and they throw comments at me. I do my best to answer them, but like to, just kind of spout off the opinions live. Sometimes my my mind of, you know, what I'm thinking about goes in different directions, but I do appreciate you watching, appreciate everyone watching. But guys, thank you so much for watching. It's very cool of you to stick around for now an hour, 19 minutes, and me rambling on about this draft and kind of different things of the draft. I will have a video out tomorrow. Like I said, I was at day 3 of the NFL draft. I was in Cleveland today. We'll have a little video just kind of showing a little bit about my experience there. So check those out. Make sure to subscribe if you're not previously subscribed. There's a lot of Steelers content on this channel, plus various other things. I do all types of different videos, so check those out. This draft was weird to me. There were a few teams that did a bad draft. Most of the teams did good. Bears, Dolphins. Yeah, like I said, everybody I saw when I was looking at teams, like I said, I was, you know, the Bears didn't, you know, Bears put together a nice 2 picks, and they didn't pick again until the 6th round. I don't know if they actually traded back in. Like what the Dolphins did, they're still feeling the effects of that Laramie Tunsil trade. But yeah, definitely if you guys just randomly popped into this live and you're like, I'll check out your channel. I do a variety of different videos. Like I said, I'll do some Steelers stuff, some NFL stuff. I do some travel vlogs, some mystery box unboxings. I do all types of stuff. This is a variety channel for me, and I enjoy it. I like doing a variety of different topics. That's not a good way to grow a channel, but I love it so much. So guys, thank you so much for watching. And like I said, make sure to check out the draft video. Hopefully will debut tomorrow. I got to kind of get it edited after I pop off on the stream here. But guys, thanks so much for watching. And thank you so much for all your comments and questions and kind of going back and forth. Had a great time tonight. Love talking draft. Kind of sad that we won't see football of any capacity until late July. At least till training camp. But guys, thanks so much for watching, but I am popping off here. Thanks, Pop. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, everybody that came through with a lot of questions and comments. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Make sure to subscribe for all my various content. Leave a comment. I will respond to any and all comments if you do. But thanks again. I'm rambling. Thanks again. I'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.